I'm 75 years old now, and the only person I can recall being there is the Queen. Royal admirers have been speculating about the British monarchy's secret tiara regulations for years. However, a startling turn has recently surfaced. According to reports, Princess Catherine and Duchess Sophie reportedly broke down in tears when Queen Camilla made an unexpected alteration to custom. Royal watchers have gone into a frenzy over the rumors, with many wondering what this would imply for family dynamics and royal jewels in the future. What is this new tiara rule exactly? Come along as we dissect the scandal that has the royal family in the news once more. Camilla adopts the system of tiaras. It's commonly believed that jewelry holds memories, and the British royal family's tiaras are the most significant piece of jewelry. These tiaras have been passed down through the generations and are artifacts worn on occasions of celebration and authority. Queen Elizabeth II carefully considered who should wear what and when, protecting the tiaras for decades. However, a very different topic is being discussed presently. Now that she is queen consort, Camilla has begun to alter the rules in startling ways. Princess Diana's former tiara is the one most crucial to this transformation. The first indication was in a picture taken at a Marcone banquet, so you'll want to see it through to the very finish. Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, and his spouse attended the banquet in 2025. It appeared to be a typical state event at first, but then people took notice of Camilla's attire. The sapphire tiara from Belgium was on Camilla's head. The shocking part comes next. Once, Princess Diana had a fondness for this Belgian tiara. It was associated with Catherine, Princess of Wales, who also wore it after her death. Many believe that Catherine had inherited some of Diana's memory. People were therefore astounded when Queen Consort Camilla wore it. Tiaras have a very rigid tradition. They are traditionally exclusively worn by royal women who are married, typically at state functions, banquets, or receptions. Although they are lent for life, the king always has authority over them. Queen Elizabeth was careful to adhere to this norm. Some women wore particular tiaras. The lover's knot tiara was worn repeatedly by Catherine, Princess of Wales. Because of her devoted dedication, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, frequently wore simpler clothing. Although everything seemed predictable, predictability seems to be eroding under Camilla. The Vladimir tiara is one item that best exemplifies this shift. One of the most well-known and priceless pieces in the royal collection. It was created in 1874. The design of this tiara sets it apart from many others. The cherished Cambridge emeralds, a set of precious stones that have been passed down through the royal family for generations, or hanging pearl drops, can be worn with the frame in a variety of ways. Because of this, it was both distinctive and adaptable, a diamond that could have whole various looks depending on how it was worn. Queen Elizabeth II was closely associated with the Vladimir tiara for many years. She frequently wore it to formal occasions, particularly state banquets, and it became one of her hallmark items. As a representation of her lengthy reign and her meticulous adherence to tradition, Elizabeth's image wearing the Vladimir tiara became ingrained in her public persona. However, Queen Consort Camilla's new strategy is now linked to this historic tiara. By donning it and limiting access to such a significant item, she has hinted that the previous regulations, which seemed to limit some tiaras to a single royal lady, might no longer be in place. It's a subtle yet effective change. The tiara with the aquamarine ribbon followed. It was kept secret for many years, worn very infrequently by Sophie and Queen Elizabeth in the 1970s. However, Camilla wore the identical aquamarine ribbon tiara to the diplomatic reception in Buckingham Palace in November 2020. The actual reception was among the most elaborate of the year. With their medals gleaming beneath the chandeliers, almost 500 ambassadors and envoys occupied the palace. Despite being thinner than previously, King Charles greeted them with a smile and steadiness. Camilla then arrived. King Charles' royal family order was affixed to her deep blue velvet robe. Aquamarines from her own collection adorned her ears and neck, but the tiara was the focal point. With every tilt of her head, the aquamarine ribbon sparkled, its 5 stones flashing pale blue. It came as a huge surprise to many. It has been over 50 years since the tiara was last seen. In 1970, Queen Elizabeth II was photographed in Canada for the final clear image of her wearing it. It seems to vanish after that. After wearing it a few times, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, put it back in storage. It has now come back, shining on Queen Camilla this time. The world saw it as though it had never been lost. There was another reason why the moment was unique. Following the death of her rescue dog, Beth, Camilla made her first significant public appearance. The palace had announced the tragic news only a few days before, accompanied by pictures of Camilla strolling Beth in the mountains. According to the royal statement, Beth was a beloved friend who made people happy at both public gatherings and peaceful times by the fireplace. It was more than just a royal obligation for Camilla to wear such a stunning and significant tiara. It served as a means of displaying grace and fortitude during a trying moment. Additionally, it brought the past and present together by reminding them of Queen Elizabeth and demonstrating how customs are upheld in each new royal family chapter. However, this diplomatic reception was lacking a guest, and her absence was more powerful than words. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was that individual. Not present was someone who had been a main attraction at these glitzy evenings for years. She never missed them normally, with a well-chosen gown and tiara accompanying each appearance. Her appearances at state banquets and receptions had become memorable and contributed to her developing reputation as the future queen. However, Catherine was not to be seen on this particular evening as foreign leaders crowded the halls of Buckingham Palace. It was out of the ordinary. The last time Catherine had skipped the diplomatic event was when she traveled to New York with Prince William in 2014. She had been there ever since, and the following morning, her jewelry selections frequently made the main pages. One of her signatures was the lover's knot tiara in particular. Books. Its glistening diamonds and pearls immediately connected with her persona. Something felt lacking without her. The palace gave a straightforward explanation. They merely stated that Catherine was occupied with getting ready for her yearly Christmas show, which she has taken over in recent years. She directly manages a large portion of the organizing for the charity and music-filled evening, which is televised to millions of people. That rationale made reasonable on paper. However, the time resulted in rumors. According to reports, she may even be thinking about hosting her own Christmas party, which would coincide with King Charles' customary Sandringham feast. The notion was sufficient to spark conjecture about more serious family conflicts, even though nothing was confirmed. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, was another royal woman who had already been impacted by Queen Camilla's decisions on the tiaras. The aquamarine ribbon tiara, which has a lengthy history of its own, had been subtly associated with Sophie for years. She wore it elegantly, attracting little notice but always bringing it to life when she did show up. Camilla wore that same tiara with pride, and it was now closely associated with her. No tiara appeared to belong to a single woman under this new method. Many onlookers found it difficult to accept this transformation. A tiara may appear to be nothing more than gold and jewels to the untrained eye, but to the royal family, they represent much more. They serve as symbols for state events, coronations, and marriages. They bind the present to history by equating the princesses of today with the queens of the past. This had a feeling of stability and order under Queen Elizabeth. Just as the monarchy itself appeared to be unassailable, each tiara had its place. That certainty is gone under Camilla. The diamonds are shifting, moving, and being shared in ways that have never been seen before. Some claim that this is a novel method that revitalizes lost gems and is invigorating. Others are concerned that it is irresponsible, even disrespectful, particularly when someone else dons tiaras that are so strongly associated with Diana. With every appearance and every gem removed from the vaults, the arguments only get louder. The message was evident that November evening, in a tiara that had not been seen in 50 years, Queen Camilla appeared radiant. At his father's side, William stood steadfastly. Catherine, however, wasn't. The new regulations are still unclear, and the previous ones had been broken, and there's a much bigger question hidden beneath all the glitz and glamour. What does this signify for Duchess Sophie, for the monarchy itself, and for Catherine, the future queen. Let's get started on it. Adaptation of Princess Catherine to the tiara rule. The tiara system in the monarchy feels significantly different from what it used to be after Queen Consort Camilla's daring attitude to royal jewels brought about recent alterations. Queen Elizabeth II gave the system stability, but Camilla has changed that. She has worn gems belonging to others, brought back forgotten pieces, and muddled the formerly distinct ownership boundaries. Consequently, two ladies in particular, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, have had to learn new coping mechanisms. This shift has required Catherine to strike a balance between her innate penchant for custom and symbolism and her increasing courage to take risks. Her tiara narrative has been one of cautious moves from the start. According to royal custom, the king or queen lends these brilliant headdresses rather than owning them, and they are only worn at formal evening events. The Cartier halo, the Cambridge lover's knot, the lotus flower, and eventually the Strathmore rose were among the few tiaras that Queen Elizabeth II, who was in charge of roughly 20 of them, gave Catherine access to. Each has had significance, history, and a role in Catherine's development into a future queen. Naturally, she wore a tiara for the first time for her wedding in April 2011. She opted to wear the Cartier halo tiara at Westminster Abbey to secure her veil over her exquisite Alexander McQueen dress. With its tiny diamond scrolls, the tiara was the ideal accessory for a young bride. It was subtle, elegant, and light. Crucially, it was also rich in royal history, as Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother in 1936, received it as a gift. Princess Margaret and Princess Anne had previously worn the Cartier halo. Because Catherine has never worn it again, the decision stands out as being exclusive to that one day that will never be forgotten. But by her tiara selections following her wedding, Catherine progressively assumed her role. The Cambridge lover's knot tiara is the item most strongly associated with Catherine. In 1914, the Cambridge lover's knot was made for Queen Mary. It has movement and grandeur because to its swinging pearl drips and diamond arches. The tiara, which is now one of Princess Diana's hallmark pieces, was particularly potent when Catherine wore it for the first time in 2015 at a state banquet for Chinese President Xi Jinping held at Buckingham Palace. As a link between Diana's legacy and Catherine's future, the moment struck a chord with people all across the world. Since then, the lover's knot has frequently been seen at banquets and diplomatic gatherings. It consistently highlights the royal family's continuity while demonstrating Catherine's willingness to wear gems with strong sentimental meanings. It was never going to be simple to wear Diana's favorite tiara. Although it holds both love and sorrow, Catherine has included it into her narrative. It becomes more intriguing at this point. Stay tuned for more. The lotus flower tiara, sometimes referred to as the papyrus tiara, has been an important accessory alongside the lover's knot. It was first created using a necklace that belonged to the Queen Mother and is composed of pearls and diamonds set in the shape of lotus blooms. One of Catherine's first tiara occasions was a diplomatic reception in 2013, where she wore it for the first time. Her penchant for understated beauty over overpowering grandeur was reflected in its delicate, exquisite design. She wore it again on other occasions, thus solidifying its association with her modest fashion sense. Catherine, however, has not been confined to the known. She created a commotion in November 2023 when she unveiled the Strathmore Rose tiara, a diamond that had not been seen in public for almost 90 years. The Queen Mother received this Strathmore Rose tiara as a wedding present in 1923. It is composed of a garland of diamond wild roses. Catherine demonstrated that she, too, could bring history back to life by selecting it, just as Camilla had done. The public was reminded of how many diamonds are buried and waiting for their moment, and the appearance was hailed globally, igniting new interest in the royal vaults. Catherine's diplomatic role has frequently been reflected in her decisions. At a state dinner for the Netherlands King Willem-Alexander and Queen Maxima in 2018, She accessorized a royal blue Alexander McQueen gown with the lover's knot tiara once more. In addition to being a lovely combination, it represented the close relationship between the Netherlands and Britain. It demonstrated how Catherine wears tiaras to uphold international ties in addition to familial customs. Catherine's style differs significantly from Camilla's. Catherine prefers tiaras that blend elegance and symbolism, while Camilla prefers big, striking tiaras like the Greville tiara. However, Camilla's impact is evident. Camilla has established a precedent by restoring neglected items and daring to wear diamonds associated with others. This strategy is echoed, for instance, by Catherine's reappearance of the Strathmore Rose tiara. It implies that Catherine might venture beyond her well-known favorites and experiment with diamonds with more impact as she gains confidence. Catherine's ability to employ tiaras for purposes other than ornamentation is what makes her unique. Each one is picked to convey a message, be it one of reviving history, reverence for the Queen Mother, or continuity with Diana. They are instruments of narrative, creating her own route to become the future queen while tying her to the women of the past. Camilla's modifications to the tiara system have further complicated this delicate balancing act. The feeling of exclusivity has diminished, and no jewel appears to be irrevocably linked to a single woman anymore. That presents Catherine with both an opportunity and a challenge: the ability to broaden her jewelry selections, and the need to preserve her individuality. Thus, Catherine's tiara voyage continues to develop. Her decisions have shown a woman who respects tradition but is open to change, from her first appearance as a bride to her increasing self-assurance as Princess of Wales. How far Catherine will go in accepting this new flexibility that Camilla has brought about is the question at hand. That is still up in the air. We do know, however, that Duchess Sophie, another royal, has approached this transition in a completely different way. Keep reading to learn how she has handled her own tiara experience. Duchess Sophie's tiara appearances in 1999, when Queen Elizabeth II was still firmly in charge of the monarchy. Sophie married Prince Edward, marking the beginning of her royal career. Sophie made her debut wearing the Anthemian tiara on her wedding day, made just for her using antique pieces from the Queen's personal collection. Its fan-like shape was both classic and unique, drawing inspiration from Queen Victoria's circlet's classical Anthemian elements. Sophie's tiara felt more unique, a representation of both uniqueness and belonging, than Catherine's, who borrowed the Cartier halo tiara from the Crown's official jewelry vault for her wedding. It influenced how she would eventually develop her position in the royal family. The Anthemian tiara became into Sophie's go-to accessory for formal events over time. She demonstrated its adaptability to many ceremonial settings by wearing it with grace during the wedding of Crown Prince Haakon of Norway and Princess Märtha Louise. Sophie accessorized the tiara with a bold bright pink gown for the Danish royal wedding, and she wore it with a navy embroidered garment at Prince Albert II of Monaco's marriage to Charlene Wittstock. Remind them that Sophie wears tiaras to show off her personality as well as to complete her obligations. Sophie wore the Anthemian tiara with a lavender gown and a striking diamond necklace during Donald Trump's 2019 state visit to the UK, which is arguably its most well-known appearance. The occasion gave a gem she had worn for 20 years a fresh contemporary edge, and during a global event broadcast, it attracted attention from all around the world. But the Anthemian wasn't the end of Sophie's tiara tale. Her preference for aquamarine gemstones actually distinguishes her from Catherine the most and demonstrates Queen Camilla's influence on the tiara system. Sophie sees tiaras as more than merely artifacts to be occasionally worn. They're chances to create an impression. For example, G commissioned Sophie to wear a Wessex aquamarine tiara. Collins & Sons is a notable illustration. This tiara is bold, unique, and multi-purpose, with a huge aquamarine stone in the center and a frame that doubles as a necklace. With a bold neckline that emphasized the tiara's modern design, Sophie first wore it to the coronation of Prince Albert II of Monaco, and then wore it to a formal supper. This demonstrated Sophie's ease in combining formality and personality, a strategy that is reminiscent of Queen Camilla's reintroduction of lost jewels and their newfound significance. The 5 aquamarine tiara, often known as the Canadian aquamarine tiara, was another moment to remember. One of the most stunning tiaras in the royal family's larger collection, it is worth over €1 million and features 510 carats of aquamarine set among diamond floral designs. Sophie wore it with a lilac dress and aquamarine jewelry for Princess Madeleine of Sweden's wedding. She also wore it with a similar aquamarine necklace at Prince Carl Philip of Sweden's wedding. Her reputation as a princess who doesn't mind making a statement was solidified by both appearances, which also added some color to a jewelry history that has long been dominated by pearls and diamonds. As King Charles took the throne, Sophie's tiara selections grew even more intriguing. Dazzling with complementary diamond jewels, she wore the Wessex aquamarine tiara at Charles' first state banquet as monarch in November 2022. With 2023, she wore it again to the banquet honoring the South Korean president. Both events were symbolic. Sophie's aquamarine tiara highlighted her contemporary, individual touch, and they positioned her at the center of the monarchy's new period. The bombshell is about to happen. Sophie stunned royal observers in 2023 by donning the delicate lotus flower tiara, which is strongly linked to Catherine. Catherine had worn this tiara, which was made for the Queen Mother in 1923, to a number of diplomatic functions. It was a subdued yet significant statement for Sophie to wear it to a luncheon honoring the Emperor and Empress of Japan. It demonstrated the new adaptability brought about by Queen Camilla, since jewels can now be shared rather than being restricted to a single royal queen. Continuity and a feeling of group representation are established. In addition to being emblems of hierarchy, tiaras today represent cooperation and solidarity within the family. More recently, in March 2024, she attracted notice once more by donning the lotus blossom tiara for a banquet honoring Emperor Naruhito of Japan's state visit to London. With her tiara set against a glittering pale gown that struck a balance between current style and classic glamour, the event's photos demonstrated how at ease Sophie had become in the spotlight. The press largely liked her appearance, who observed that, with her own unique flair, she has quietly emerged as one of the monarchy's most dependable emissaries. Standing alongside Catherine and Camilla, Sophie's tiara journey is particularly captivating because it exemplifies both loyalty and flexibility. Sophie respects her marriage and her own royal heritage by wearing the Enthemion. She gives her job uniqueness and vitality by embracing striking aquamarines. She also backs Camilla's efforts to transform the tiara system into one that is more adaptable and inclusive by donning items like the lotus flower. Sophie's tiara selections demonstrate adaptability, experimentation, and personality, in contrast to Catherine's, which frequently highlight history, duty, and queenship preparation. Together, the two women demonstrate how various manifestations of royal identity have been made possible by Camilla's influence. Sophie exemplifies the freedom of adaptability, whereas Catherine bears the burden of tradition. Even though Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, isn't as well known as Catherine, royal observers are usually captivated by her tiara selections. They serve as a reminder that despite the rigid customs of the monarchy, uniqueness, contemporary design, and artistic expression are still acceptable. Sophie's tiara journey also demonstrates that the monarchy can respect its history while welcoming a future in which tradition and modernity coexist harmoniously. As Camilla continues to lead this new period of adaptability, and that's not all. The unexpected aspect of Camilla's adaptability to the tiara tradition was that it went beyond modernization and sharing. Fundamentally, it was about domination, a means of establishing a point, not only to the general public,
but particularly to Sophie and Catherine, the future queen, who is currently the Duchess of Edinburgh, a high-level title. Camilla made it obvious that she as queen controls the jewels and their meaning by putting herself at the center of these decisions. The fact that Catherine and Sophie had already started to adjust to change even before Camilla's activities were apparent, however, makes this moment even more remarkable. Their considerate, symbolic, and occasionally bold tiara appearances demonstrated how they both recognized that flexibility could be a tool rather than a danger, for sometimes, deeds speak louder than words. Therefore, even though Camilla used her influence to emphasize her role, Catherine and Sophie quietly responded with their own decisions, each gently changing the monarchy's jewelry history by fusing tradition with contemporary expression. Regarding Queen Camilla's modifications to the tiara restrictions, what are your thoughts, and how they have influenced Duchess Sophie of Edinburgh and Princess Catherine of Wales? Please let us know what you think in the comments section below. Remember to subscribe, like and share for more. Additionally, click on the video that is displayed on your screen while you are still here. You should not miss it.